for it to go. Are we up? Are we live? Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to this month's live Q&A. If you are new to my Patron-only live Q&As, we do things a little off the cuff here, so it's not very scheduled, and most of the time I don't know what I'm doing, which is probably why I was dancing right before the camera started. Tonight I have a special guest with me. Well, she's kind of a special guest. This is my wife, Snuggles. If you guys have been following along for a while, you'll know that she helped post all of the PCT videos this year from the trail. Helped me a lot to get all of those up so you guys could follow along and watch. And we just got doing a 469-mile bike tour of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Say hello.
Hi.
She's not used to being on camera most of the time, so we'll try to break her in as gently as we can. So it's pretty much open forum for the Q&A. We'll go about an hour, and the rules are pretty much, well, there really are no rules. You can basically ask anything, throw it over here in the chat box, just kind of throw your question, and I like to usually kind of go in order and answer everyone's questions. That can be about gear, maybe you have a specific question about a hike that you have coming up, maybe it's a question about one of my hikes, maybe it's a question about our bike tour, maybe it's a question about a future project that we're doing. Basically anything, we'll just answer them in chronological order. I do tend to ramble quite a bit when answering a question, and sometimes I go into very long versions of answers, but bear with me. We'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. So, like I said, we'll go ahead and wait for the first question. Just kind of give you guys a little bit of a update on where we're at. If you didn't catch my little update video that I made for you yesterday, we are currently back in Evansville, Indiana, which is our hometown and where we both grew up, and we're currently at Snuggles' mom's house, in a random room, sitting on a blow-up mattress on the floor. Very awkward. So that's what's with the weird set in the background. Like, this is the awkward part I was talking about. We're just going to sit here awkwardly until you guys start answering or asking some questions. We'll answer the questions. That's our job. Your job is to ask the question. So, can everybody hear me all right? Is the sound okay? Is the stream going all right? Somebody let me know over here in the chat box that everything looks and sounds good. There is a first question. Dennis, good job, buddy. All right, on the Blue Ridge Parkway, the mountain climbs in North Carolina greater than the Virginia climbs. You want to answer this one?
I will. Yes. The mountain climbs in North Carolina are very much greater than Virginia. When we started the Blue Ridge Parkway, apparently, Darwin didn't tell me this, but apparently we started at the steepest section in Cherokee, North Carolina. I didn't realize that until we were there on our bicycles, ready to go. So it was a little too late.
Yeah, day number one, in the first 18 miles, we climbed 8,000 feet in only 18 miles, which was insane, especially because it was Snuggles' first time really riding any type of long distance on a bike. So it was a good way to break her in. That's typically how I do things, to the extreme. But she doesn't exactly do things like that all the time, so it was an interesting trip.
I should have known better, really, is what it was.
But there were some really nice climbs in Virginia, too, especially towards the end, near the Peaks of Otter, just after Roanoke. We started getting into some pretty steep climbs, but nothing compared to the ones in North Carolina.
No.
The highest elevation on the entire parkway is in North Carolina, and we actually hit that on day 2. It's about 38 miles in is the highest elevation, which I think was just over 6,000 feet. So pretty insane in North Carolina on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Anyone out there is planning on doing it. Next question from Gary is, why don't you do the River to River Trail? That is an awesome question, and awesome that you know what the River to River Trail is. So we are actually only about, an hour?
If that.
Yeah, an hour away from Garden of the Gods and Shawnee National Forest, where the River to River Trail is. Funny enough, in the morning, I'm actually headed over there, and I'm going to be on the River to River Trail tomorrow, probably about 10, 11 a.m. I'm going to go shoot some videos, and I'm actually going to go on a day hike on the River to River. And I would actually love to do the River to River Trail, 100%.
You talked about that for a long time. Actually.
Yeah. It's funny. The River to River Trail is the first time I knew what a long distance trail was. Before I really understood what the Appalachian Trail was, way before I knew what the PCT was, the River to River Trail was kind of my first introduction to hearing about a trail that was like over 100 miles long. And you started at one end and you went to the other end. So pretty cool. I do eventually plan on actually doing the River to River. And again, tomorrow I'm going to be out there just kind of messing around on the trail and hiking it. But that's where I got my legs under me. That's where Snuggles went on her first backpacking trip. Was on a Yep, it was on a very small section, just right by Garden of the Gods on the River to River Trail.
I had that bad of an experience. I don't remember. I blocked it out.
Yeah, so yeah, I would love to do it, and maybe one of these days I will do it. You want to read the next question from?
Yeah, it looks like. What kind of bike do you have? Should I say the person's name?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The person's name is
Eugene.
I don't
Wait,
think
is it?
There's
No.
not an N in there. That's why I was having you say it.
Well, you said Gene here. I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Gene.
So Gene, 2000. What kind of bike do you have? What kind of bike do you have, Darwin?
So I ride a Surly ECR. It's a steel bike. The ECR is actually a bike packing bike. If you've been following my stuff for a while, you might remember I was riding that bike on the Arizona Trail in 2016. Typically, it runs like a big fat 3-inch tire. Great for trail riding, but I have another wheel set that I can actually use with it and turn it into a road touring bike. And that's what I rode out on the BRP. And then
I rode a Surly Ogre.
An Ogre.
And it is black and it has purple accents. And the name named it because I like to name things in my life. And the name of my bike is the Prince Veronica.
Yes, because it's very important to name your bikes. That is very
important. More so important than what type of bike I have.
So yeah, we both ride Surly. We both ride steel. I've always been a big steel bike fan. In the past, I've owned like super ultralight carbon race bikes and stuff. But in the end, steel is real. Steel is king. It's the most comfortable when you're out on a long distance tour for sure. Ken asked, you didn't talk too much about your PCT leg injury after you took some time to rehab/heal. Weeks later, you did crazy long days. What did you change to keep from injuring it again? Other problems? ? Awesome question, Ken. I think I actually have touched on that on another Q&A that I might have done, a live Q&A while I was actually out on the trail. But just to kind of reiterate what happened is I was coming out of Big Bear, California. I was about to say Carolina. We've been down south too long. I was coming out of Big Bear, California, and coming down a really, really steep descent. And I actually tripped. The front of my shoe got caught on a rock. And I fell forward, and instead of falling on my face, I took off running. Like, if you've ever tripped on something, you try to take off running to kind of catch your fall. I took off running to try to catch my fall and took 20 really quick steps and was just putting all my weight on my knees and my shins and my feet. And about on the 10th quick step, I just felt this little tear. And what happened was I tore a tendon. I got a little micro tear down here in my shin. And I had to take a week off. I went and got an x-ray done to make sure that I didn't have any, any type of stress fracture. And they just told me to take time off. I took a week off. I did rest, ice elevation, compression. And when I got back on the trail, it hurt just like the day I got off. So I was stupid and stubborn, and I decided to keep hiking. So I did use compression sleeves, and every night when I got into camp, I tried to massage that tendon out as much as possible. I tried to put my feet up, and for about a week, I was in a lot of pain. I didn't talk about it a whole lot in the videos, and the reason I didn't talk about it was because I like to release as much information as possible about my hike, but people tend to pick apart a lot of things and complain about a lot of things. And I knew that if I talked too much about my tendon, there'd be all these negative comments that I should get off the trail, yada yada yada. So I kind of refrained from talking about it too much. I did end up picking up some CBD balm in California, and every night I was rubbing that into the tendon, and it really helped a lot. And by the second week, strangely enough, I was doing bigger days, and the tendon just got better. Somehow, magical, it healed itself, even though I was hiking on it bigger days every single day. By the time I got to Tehachapi, California, it was 100%. It was 100% healed. And what I did to prevent it is I just made sure that every day when I got to camp from there on out, I was rolling it out. I was still rubbing that CBD balm in there. I was just making sure I stretched a lot, and I really watched my steps from there on out. And as far as other problems, yeah, I actually ended up having quite a big problem because I was limping so much. If you go back and watch those videos, you'll see that I was walking weird for a while. I was hiking weird, and I was overcompensating. And what ended up happening was my hip was dropped, and I developed a hip problem by the end of the trail. So when I got off of the trail, I actually had to go see a sports chiropractor to really work out the tendons and the muscles inside my hip because they were pretty messed up. So, long way to answer it, but yeah, that's basically what happened. And, you know, I could have taken longer off the trail, but I made a dumb decision probably to keep hiking, and luckily it worked out. That doesn't always happen, and I'm really glad that it did happen because it could have went totally the other way, and I could have developed a bigger problem. So don't do what I did. Listen to your body. Don't be a moron like I was.
You paid for it.
Yeah, I definitely paid for it in the end. You know, I got back to hiking. I still hiked bigger days, but when I got off the trail, man, I had a lot of problems going on in my hip because of the overcompensation and stuff. So
you continue to wear those compression sleeves, right?
Yeah, and then I ended up wearing the compression sleeves for quite some time, and I ended up ditching them towards the end, which is why they weren't in my my post hike gear video, because I didn't technically finish with them. I had them up until I finished, really close to when I finished, and I got rid of them because I just wasn't having any problems. So, all right, next question. In bear canister areas, are you allowed to carry your food in your pack while hiking, and then transfer the food to your bear canister when you stop? Was thinking of keeping my canister on the outside.
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. So what they are referring to is on the PCT, there are sections, one big section in particular through the Sierra, where you do have to carry a bear canister. Technically, the rules are everything needs to be in the canister, but it's kind of a gray area. They don't really say if everything should be in the canister at night or if it always has to be in the canister. So because I did carry a smaller bear canister, which was the BV450, I ended up putting as much as I possibly could in it, and then I would usually keep my food bag with just a couple things in it on top of my pack. Now, I always tried to keep what I was going to eat first in that, so I could make sure that, like, that night for dinner, that's what I was eating, and I would try to jam as much as I possibly could in the bear canister for the night. While I was hiking, I wasn't really worried about it, and if you do get stopped by a ranger or something, they don't hardcore check it. They typically just knock on your pack to make sure they can hear the canister, and you're good. So, kind of a gray area. I think that you would be good for keeping your canister on the outside, carrying some food on the inside. However, I would recommend that at night, making sure that whatever food is on the outside of your canister, make sure you can get it in there. And, you know, it's not even really for your safety. It has nothing to do with your safety because hanging a bear line works as well. It really comes down to making sure a wild bear can't get your food. And then it lets the bear taste unnatural things. It's harmful for the bear. A bear can eat trash because it's on the outside of your pack, and that can also hurt the bear. So
it's just against the law.
Yeah,
it's required to get
yeah,
fined
and
for
that's the other thing. It's the law. You know, if you're hiking in a place where a bear canister is required, chances are it's for a reason. So try to do what you can to follow that and make sure you're not breaking the law, that you're not harming the bear, and you're keeping everything on the up and up so it doesn't ruin it for everyone else.
There's a lot of strategy while I was trying to help hikers and like do some trail angeling out on the PCT when I would be in a trail town here and there. There was a lot of strategy when it came to putting food into a bear canister. I feel like that's like a piece of art in itself.
Yeah.
Is trying to watch hikers buy all the food that they wanted, but then trying to get it in like this little bitty space.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty comical. I think there could be a whole movie made on that.
Yeah, it's like playing Tetris.
Exactly.
You're just constantly trying to stack stuff and get things where even with the big canisters, I saw people just smashing stuff to get it in there. Because I went pretty minimal with what I was eating, I was trying to find very dense, compact foods. For reasons like that. I don't want it to take up a lot of room in my pack. So for those sections that I had to carry a bear canister, I thought a lot about what I was carrying and making sure that whatever I had wasn't too bulky and wasn't going to take up too much room in my bear canister.
So read the next question?
Yep.
Next question is, do you have adequate storage in your van for both you, your bikes, I read that wrong, for both your bikes normally, or do you keep them elsewhere until they are needed?
So, we don't store our bikes inside of the van. We actually have a bike rack on the outside. Typically, I think any of the pictures that you've probably seen of our van or the video tour that I did of the van, it didn't have the bike rack on it at the time. When I was hiking the PCT, we actually stored our bikes at our friend's house in Southern California. So we did not have the bike rack on there. However, now we have a 4-bike bike rack, a hitch mount bike rack that our bikes sit on. Not exactly what I want. I would love to have the bikes inside or have them on top, but it works for now. We don't always travel with our bikes. There's usually a place where we can store them for an extended period of time, and we know that we're not going to be riding them. Yeah, we always do that because, you know, you never know. Even with all the cables and chains and everything, you can be parked somewhere and somebody can easily steal bikes off the back of a car. So.
And that's our secondary form of transportation when we're out in the desert or something. So we definitely need to keep track of those.
Exactly. All right, next question. When is your documentary scheduled to be aired? So, awesome question, because I don't think I've answered any questions about the documentary. So, before I answer the question, let me touch on first, if for some reason you guys are not familiar and you haven't read all the updated things on Patreon, starting in February, I'm going out to shoot a full-length documentary of the Arizona Trail. I'm going to be through hiking the Arizona Trail in March, northbound, but while I'm out there hiking, I'm going to be filming a full-length documentary. I'm working with the Arizona Trail Association. They're actually backing it and supporting it. And then we've recently brought on some sponsors to help fund the documentary. And then once we go out and shoot the documentary, we get everything filmed, we plan on entering it into some film festivals, also releasing it on digital and possibly some sort of like Blu-ray or DVD. So right now, there's no real schedule for it to be aired. One, because it hasn't been shot yet. We haven't started production of it. But you guys will get, all the info on that. Here within, if you guys have noticed, I've started doing a little bit more, been a little bit more active on Patreon in the last couple weeks. That's because we're going to have a lot of information to roll out to you guys within the next handful of months. We are about to head out to Arizona in a week and a half.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are going to be out in northern Arizona for 2 months for the winter. We're actually renting a small place in northern Arizona to do a bunch of work, get this website launched, get it all built, and then go into pre-production for the documentary on the Arizona Trail. So you guys will get updates on all of that as they come out. We want to involve you guys as much as possible. We want your feedback for things on the website.
Absolutely.
We want your feedback for things on the documentary, because you guys have been so great to help support me through my journeys and through these projects. So I want to make you guys a big part of it, and that's really my big goal for this next year, is creating more of a community, more of an online hiking community like the one that I see when I'm out on the trail. I want to bring that to you guys. So I want to involve you guys more and have you help me roll these things out and make it a bigger and better thing than it is. So keep, stand by, stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot of information in the next coming months on everything that we're working on. Have I got a tat to commemorate my PCT hike? So yes, I actually have gotten a tat to commemorate my PCT hike, which would be this one right here. If you can see that.
Like doing yoga.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do some yoga so you guys can see the tat. Yep, it's just a simple PCT logo, the trail badge, just like my Appalachian Trail one that's back here. So yep, there it is. I've gotten a handful of other tattoos since I've gotten off the PCT as well. One here on my leg, and then one here on my arm. So yeah, I'm a tattoo collector. We live a very minimal life and live out of a van, so we don't collect a lot. I used to collect records, and when I was a kid, I collected comics. Whenever you live in a van, you don't really have space to collect, but I have plenty of room on my skin to collect. So yeah, I collect tattoos now.
Next question.
Yep.
What were some popular gear modifications that you did or saw on the trail? Saw you through the Z seat on the back of your pack in episode 1.
Gear modifications. I don't know if I really did any gear modifications. I always do things before I hit the trail. Like if you're talking about the PCT in specific, I don't think I really did any gear modifications while I was out there. But like, little ones that I always do are, I can't stand the straps on trekking poles. So I always modify my trekking poles. I always remove my straps. I always remove my little like leaf baskets. Try to lighten them up and try to make them as simple as possible. God, modifications.
You modded everything that you could.
Yeah. I'm not insane. Like some people will go through like all their clothes and cut off all the tags, cut off extra buttons from their shirt.
How about your toothbrush?
To save weight. Yeah, they shave down their toothbrush. I don't do that. I have a mini toothbrush, but some people will like take even the mini toothbrushes and like carve the handle off just to modify it and save a little bit of weight. I just don't really do that. I modified my headlamp last year by taking off the big thick strap and putting more like just a bungee strap on there. That's about it. I don't really do a lot of modification. I really think about what I want to take on the trail, and I really figure out what works best for me. And I kind of don't want to modify things. I want to use things as they are because I love testing things. I love doing gear reviews. So to a point, like if I modify it, it's not really the original piece of gear that I started off with to do the review. So I like to kind of test things as they are. And then afterwards, if I feel like it needs to be fixed a little bit, then I'll modify it for sure. Like that headlamp, great example. I hated the strap on that headlamp after using it a couple times. So I ditched it and put a new strap on there and modified it. But yeah, I didn't really see a lot of people doing a lot of modifications aside from your normal, like people will take their packs and they'll cut up pieces of a Z seat or pieces of like a pool noodle and like add extra padding to their pack. A lot of people will lose too much weight on the trail and they kind of start getting bony and their pack kind of starts eating into their shoulder blades and stuff. Another reason for that is improper pack fit. A lot of people will go out with a pack that's too big for them, or not really too small, but usually too big. So they have to add extra padding and stuff. They have to modify it. But aside from that, not a lot of modifications. I didn't see a whole lot of stuff. The Z seat on the back of my pack, you're probably talking about on the Arizona Trail. Now on that, I did take a piece of Z-Rest and I took off the back pad that was on my Z-Pax Nero, which is a frameless pack, and I replaced that with a piece of Z-Seat just to make it double duty. But no, I don't really modify a whole lot. Thanks for the injury insight. You are welcome, Ken. What advice do you have for mental preparation to anyone in their last 5-month countdown to their first thru hike? Good question. I would actually like, what are you thru hiking? If you could let me know, I'd love to know what you're actually thru hiking. Some advice, mental preparation. She can actually really step in good on this one.
For me personally, like thinking back when we did the Appalachian Trail 5 months before, like I think I was reading everything possible that I could on the AT and journaling. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to that, so I journal a lot about it just to get my thoughts out there. For us, we didn't really have a lot of people around us that knew exactly what the Appalachian Trail was, didn't really understand the whole concept of being out on a trail for months at a time. So journaling helped me in that regard kind of get my thoughts out, because I really didn't really have a sounding board for that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to give someone advice on mental preparation. I mean, there's always the general advice that I think everyone gives.
Oh, the AT.
Yeah, for the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Appalachian Trail is the trail that we're talking about here. I think that there's always the general advice, like, the cliche stuff is hike your own hike, never quit on a bad day, embrace the suck, stuff like that. But it's really hard to get that stuff across until you do it. It's kind of like it's hard to train for a long distance hike. It really is. You can go out every day. I always give the advice, and I always tell people, just get out and hike. Get out and hike, learn your gear. But at the end of the day, you can go out and you can have thousands of miles on you from day hikes and weekend backpacking trips. And you can get out on a thru hike and all that stuff goes out the window because it's a totally different game.
Well, you did for instance, Darwin did the Pinhoti Trail as a thru hike before a thru hike, did that, and then went out on the PCT. And there's still an adjustment period. Always. No matter what you're doing.
It's hard to get yourself
physically,
and I think mentally in tough enough to be able to deal with it. Now, once you do a thru hike, I think that you kind of expect what you're getting into for the next one. But for your first one, it's so hard to give people advice. I guess my most general advice I can tell you is listen to the trail. The trail will teach you everything that you need to know. The trail will get you in shape physically and mentally. It'll toughen you up. It'll open you up. It'll make you a better person. It'll make you nicer. It'll let you accept things from strangers more. It'll restore your faith in humanity. So listen to the trail. Don't fight it. Just let the trail do what it's going to do. Sometimes it's going to suck. Sometimes the trail is going to kick your ass mentally and physically. Sometimes the trail is going to be super rewarding, and there's going to be trail magic around the next corner, or you're just going to have an amazing day with bright blue skies and awesome views.
I remember before maybe even a couple weeks before we started the AT, going out, obviously we were trying to go out and do small hikes, but I remember thinking to myself, like, there was one day where it was like really snowy and cold, and I was thinking to myself, man, like, I really don't want to hike today. I really don't want to do this. Like, if I was on the AT right now, I don't know what I would do because I don't want to do this right now. I'm uncomfortable. But really, whenever you get out there, we can sit here and tell you how you're going to adjust to it, but I think it's one of those things that until you're actually out there and you're doing it and you're adjusting, then you can be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because after I've got a whole list on our website of books that I read, movies that we watched to try to get us prepared. Like we were just absorbing everything that we could, but really, like that was very helpful, and I think that helped us compared to some. It looked like we were, at a different mindset and preparation, but really everybody's at the same level. That first night at Hawk Mountain Shelter, everybody was nervous.
Everybody was scared.
We'd set up our
Scared
stoves
shitless.
a million times, and like we're shaking trying to set our stoves up. I remember dropping the water filter trying to get water, which I've filtered water tons of times before, but it was just the fact that we have actually, like, this is our first night on this thing that we had prepared for over a year, and it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
That morning I couldn't even eat breakfast, knowing that I was going to have to hike and I was going to sleep in the woods, and I probably needed to eat as much as I could. I couldn't eat breakfast that morning because I was so nervous.
So yeah, it's hard to give that advice, but I think the best is just listen to the trail. It'll take you where it needs to take you. It'll teach you.
And when you get out there, everybody is feeling the exact same way.
Totally.
Because no matter what their experience is, they haven't been out on that trail before, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. I feel that way whenever I get out on the trail. I mean, I'm a pretty confident person, and again, I know what I'm getting into when I went out to do the PCT because I did the AT. I know what comes with a thru hike. I know the mental game. I know the physical game, but still, it's totally new. There are some things that you forget about. Like you get out there, and you're always learning out there. But the best thing to do is learn. Let it teach you. And then I guess, again, one of the most cliche things that is good for everyone to know is do not quit on a bad day. If you're having a terrible day and you're mentally wore out, or you're physically wore out, you're cold or you're hot or you're hungry, your feet hurt, find a way to get off the trail. Get off the trail, get into a town, get into a hostel or a hotel, take the night off, take a shower, eat some food, and just get your mind off of the trail.
I just had to do that on the Parkway.
Yeah.
I was ready to quit actually in Asheville, if I'm being completely honest, because I thought my ass was going to fall off. I was super sore and just out of shape. And we went into Asheville and actually met up with a friend from the AT cider, and I took a hot shower, I ate really good food, I had a beer, I got some good sleep, had a really good breakfast, and I was ready to go that morning.
Yeah, so
sometimes it takes that.
Yeah,
and
take that day off, get your mind off of it.
I was going to say, Cider, too, our friend that hiked the Appalachian Trail as a solo female hiker, she had done something that was really cool that I could probably suggest to you. While you're comfortable and you're warm and you're dry and you're fed, write a letter to yourself of why you want to hike the AT or whatever trail for anybody else that's preparing for an adventure of any kind. While you're comfortable, write that letter to yourself, all the reasons why you're doing it, why you want to do it, how hard you work to do it, all the training that you've done. So whenever you have that bad day and you're out on the trail or whatever adventure, you can look at that letter and you can read it, and it's from yourself, and you're not going to lie to yourself about that. And it's a good memento. Cider did that numerous times out on the AT when she was having a bad day. She never read it out loud. All it took was her, sometimes even just having that letter to remember, oh yeah, this is why I'm out here. This is what was happening before, and this is why I'm choosing to do this.
There you go, folks. You can't buy advice like that. That's good stuff. All right, so yeah. Good luck on preparing 5 months. Awesome for your
and
AT
don't
hike.
hesitate to ever email either one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love to talk trail. Obviously, we ramble.
Yep. I told you guys early on at the beginning of this, sometimes these get really long-winded answers. I feel like I'm making a video specifically on the topic that you guys are asking. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Oh wait, Gary says you have to leave room for sponsor logos like on my legs. Nobody's sponsoring me, sir. No.
Except for Smokey the Bear.
Except for Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear gets to sponsor me.
Okay, next question. Oh, it's for me. I feel special. Snuggles, do you have any writing projects in the works or upcoming? I do. If you follow my blog, which a lot of people think is actually, I think you writing the blog.
So let's put something at rest. I would assume you guys are patrons. You guys really follow my stuff.
You know us better than most people.
Yeah, I would assume that you guys know. If you visit my website, there is a section called the Snuggles Diaries. Now, every single Wednesday, there's a new post on the website. That is not me. I am not posting that. That is Snuggles. That's why it's called the Snuggles Diary.
I do post it on your Facebook.
Yes, if you guys follow me on Facebook.
But I say that it's me, because I don't have my own Facebook. That's a whole other story.
So every Wednesday, she does post on my Facebook that she has a new entry in the Snuggles Diary, but that is hers.
But as far as projects that I'm working on, so while Darwin was on the PCT, I was kind of playing around with some ideas with things that I want to do maybe in the future as far as a spouse who doesn't go on a long distance hike or doesn't go on a long adventure, and kind of how to be supportive of said spouse or significant other, family member, how to interact with them, things to be a part of the community, like the trail community, those kind of things. That's in the far distant future. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to turn into. A lot of times, like I constantly write. A lot of times that doesn't pop up on the blog, that doesn't turn into anything. So yeah, I've got some notes on that, like the spouse perspective that stayed behind, I guess you could say. Not sure where that's going. I do, however, on the blog, kind of got on a tangent there. I did post earlier within this year that I was going to do a book called Mini Misadventures, and that is still happening. It's just happening a lot slower than I thought it was going to happen. My goal originally was to get that book, and when I say book, I mean like maybe 40 pages of like little short stories and stuff of like, basically it's just kind of an extension of the Snuggles Diaries. My goal was to get that done before Darwin finished the PCT. Obviously that has not happened. It's now October and it's still in the works. So my next goal for Mini Misadventures is maybe by December to get it out for like Christmas time, but we'll see what happens. I'm a very stubborn person when it comes to that, so I have a life goal of writing a book of some kind, and that's what Mini Misadventures is. But with that goal, I want to do it all myself, so that is complicated. So I don't want to give up on that aspect, but I feel like it can maybe be a little easier to do what I'm doing. But yeah, so long story, Mini Misadventures is a book that I'm creating. Hopefully it'll be out in December. Not 100% sure, but stay reading on the blog. As I say on the blog, read on, as a play off of Darwin. But yeah, keep on checking out the blog, and I try to keep updates going on that long process.
Nice. Gregory, at home I ride 99% pavement and use Schwabel Kojaks. I'm going to Arizona and Utah. I would like to sedate tire that would ride alright on the road, but more grips than slicks provide, which is none. So the tire that both of us run on our bike, I don't know what your clearance is, how big of a tire you can actually put on your bike, but we run a tire that is made by Specialized. It's called the Sawtooth, the Specialized Sawtooth. It's a 42, so it's a pretty wide tire, and that's what we do all of our on-road and off-road stuff with. Specialized designed that tire to be an all-touring tire. So it's awesome on the pavement, It rolls really smooth and really fast, and it's nice and cushy because it's a 42. It runs tubeless, but the other great thing about it is it has amazing, amazing grip. It has these inverted lugs on it, which makes it great for trail. I ride trail all the time on those. They don't look like they'd be mountain bike tires at all, but I've rode mountain bike trails on that 42, and they're awesome. They have amazing grip. It's what we both ran whenever we were out on whenever we lived out in Albuquerque. It's what we commuted on. It's great for the sand. It's great for loose dirt. They're really awesome tires. And I'm wanting to say that Specialized has made a smaller version of the tire. I could be wrong on that, but I'm wanting to say they did a 32 as well. But if you can run a 42, I highly suggest the 42 Sawtooth tire by Specialized. They're awesome. Really, really good tire. Have fun out there. That's where we're actually about to head out. We're going to be on the state line of Arizona and Utah. We're going to be like 30 minutes away from Zion and 30 minutes away from the North Rim of the Grand Canyon.
Watch out for goat heads.
Yeah, watch out for goat heads. If you've never done any riding in the Southwest, there are these little bitty thorny things that are all over the ground called goat heads. Yeah, they kind of come out of tumbleweeds. It's a seed. It has little spikes on it. So if you plan on doing a lot of riding out there and you can run tubeless. It'll save you a lot of headaches from getting flats. All right, so
don't step on them barefooted.
Yeah, don't step on them barefooted. That's really great advice and personal insight. Thank you. I've been out on short hikes and even short trips on the AT.
Sweet.
But this is going to be the adventure of a lifetime.
That's actually more experience on the AT than what we had when we started.
Yeah, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
It will be an adventure of a lifetime. Just listen to the trail. Darlene asks, do the both of you ever go together on long distance hikes, or are we planning to?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. So we just kind of got done talking about that. We did both hike the Appalachian Trail together in 2015 and 2016 together.
When we went back in 2016.
Yeah, but we have not really done any long distance stuff together since then. I mean, we just did this bike tour on the Blue Ridge Parkway, which wasn't a hike, but it was a long distance trip. We were out there for 15 days. But we typically, what we found hiking together is it's really hard to hike with somebody else, because one person is always having to hike someone else's hike. I like to hike. I have a really long stride. I have long legs, so I tend to move quite a bit faster on the trail, and I like putting in big days.
And I'm the type of hiker that likes to stop and look at whatever it is, a rock that's interesting or a tree, and I want to touch the tree, and I want to hug the tree, and I want to smell the tree. And by the time I've done all that, Darwin is already a mile down the trail.
Yeah, so it's really hard for us to hike together, and that's what we learned out on the Appalachian Trail.
Even though we had done numerous hikes before, like even like 3 to 4 day overnight trips backpacking, it's different whenever you go from that to months at a time on trail.
Yeah, so I would love to do another trip with Snuggles like that, a long distance hike. But logistically, it's just really hard.
And I honestly I'm not really interested in doing another, I guess maybe long distance hike. They're smaller trails, and maybe those are considered long distance trails. But through hiking for me, it took me doing the Appalachian Trail to figure out that is not what type of hiker that I am. Yeah,
there's two different types of hikers, long distance hikers. When someone goes out for their first long distance trail, you're either gonna be a person that absolutely becomes addicted to it and you love it and it's really for you and you love the challenge, or you're a one and done, somebody that goes out and that's what they wanted from it. They wanted just that one hike, and that was their dream to do that one hike. And they don't really aspire to do any other long-distance trails. And I think that's more Snuggles.
Yeah, totally.
She wanted to do the Appalachian Trail.
It was actually my idea to hike the Appalachian Trail.
But as far as all the other ones, she doesn't really have any interest in that. Me, I have an insanely addictive personality. So we went out and did the AT, and I just got totally hooked. And yeah, I can't stop. I absolutely love it. I raced triathlon for 8 years. I was totally hooked and addicted to that, and I just went straight from that straight to this. So it's one addiction to another addiction.
Yeah,
basically.
I do still really enjoy hiking. I really enjoy backpacking, and I really enjoy spending a good chunk of time out there. But I don't think that I will ever, and never say never for sure, but I don't think I will do a long distance hike that's like in the thousands of miles and stuff again. It's just not, I'm just not interested in it. It's a different type of hike for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. We might end up doing something again in the future, but as of right now,
bike tour was
no
fun.
real plans. Bike tour was fun.
That was a totally different type of experience.
Yeah. Snuggles, I loved your words to Darwin on his last PCT video. I'm looking forward to reading more of what you write. So
actually, I cannot take credit for those words. As beautiful as they were, I did not write those, and I did not read those.
Yeah,
those were from a really good friend of ours that we're both really close
Yeah,
with.
so if you guys don't know what we're talking about, on my last episode of my PCT through hike, on my last day, there's a narration with a woman's voice, and it's going back and it's looking over my entire hike. A lot of people think that was Snuggles, and it actually wasn't. Mm-hmm. I was having a pretty rough time. I tried not to show it in the videos because I always try to be strong for you guys. But the last 100 miles, I was having a pretty hard hike. I was just really, I was mentally burnt out. I was physically exhausted, and I was ready to be done with the trail. And I was having a little bit of a rough time. And
as anybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. It's part of long distance hiking, mm-hmm. and it's anybody that's out there that's aspiring to be a long distance hiker.
Those days are gonna happen.
They're gonna happen. It's something that everybody thinks that they're gonna love it from day one to the last day, but it's just not true. You can ask really any long distance hiker. Everybody goes through it. Whenever you do something for that long every day, and you're doing the same thing, you're putting your body through all that stress. It definitely wears down on you, and it definitely gets to you. And eventually, it's just like a job. You don't want to go to work. Like, you wake up some days and you don't want to go to work. You wake up some days on the trail and you don't want to hike anymore. You're just done with it. So, I was having a rough time. I didn't have signal for about a week. We hadn't talked in a while. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine from back home, actually, we actually just went and had dinner with her last night. She had sent me a text message. She was thinking about me. She knew I was having a rough time. So she sent me a text message with some encouraging words in it. And the second to last day I was on the trail, I got a little bit of signal. And the only thing that came through on my phone was that text message. And the text message was what you guys heard in
her words.
Like yeah,
that's her voice.
Yeah, that was what she had written me, and it meant a lot to me. It touched me, and when I was out on the trail for the last day, my last chunk of trail, it's all I thought about. So I knew when I got off the trail, I wanted to have her read that. So that recording is actually our friend Karen reading what she had sent me, because that narration meant so much to me.
We did give her credit. She is in the description box there in the video description box. But yeah, we thought that worked really well to have her read it. But yeah, I love it that people think is beautiful, and I would love to take credit for it. But yeah, that definitely wasn't me. That was our really good friend Karen. Yeah, it was super awesome.
Yeah. So not her. Big misconception. I answered that a bunch. I ended up answering and correcting a lot of people in the comments, but unfortunately, I just haven't talked about it in the video.
My voice doesn't sound like good.
So next question is, do you both cold soak when you go out together?
We have.
Have you cold soaked?
We did when we've done that in the van before, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm not opposed to cold soaking. I know there's some people that seem like they get really offended almost if you tell them that you don't carry a stove and drink cold coffee. I really don't care. I'm lazy, So cold soaking does make sense to me. Even when I do cook with a stove, I don't clean it, so it.
She doesn't. She'll take her cup. It'll have like old mashed potatoes in it, and she'll just like throw it in her food bag. And then the next night
I'll make coffee out of it.
She'll just make coffee out of it.
I really don't care. So,
it's pretty nasty. I at least clean out my cup when I'm cooking. And my cold soaking jar. I do clean out my cold soaking jar.
I think we have cold soak couscous and tuna, actually.
Yeah. I think that I've gotten her on the couscous and tuna game.
I will literally eat just about anything, so I don't really have a preference.
But on the Blue Ridge bike tour that we did
take a stove.
We did take a stove on that trip. We did cook because
just
to change it up. Yeah, just to have a luxury. I'm not, I think a lot of people people think that I won't carry a stove, and that's not true. I like to switch it up from time to time. So on this last trip, we did carry a stove.
Darwin is really a couscous and tuna person. I prefer mac and cheese with tuna. That's where it's at. So that is where we differ. But cold soaking is totally fine.
Yeah.
Next question. Thoughts on the PCT as a first through hike?
Good question, Dave. So I think the PCT would be a great first through hike. I'm actually currently making a video that should come out on Thursday. You guys will get to see it on Wednesday, comparing the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail. AT or PCT, which one is my favorite? And I think that both trails are really great for a first through hike. Just to kind of spoil it for you, though. So yeah, spoilers. If you don't want to know, don't listen. I think that the Appalachian Trail is a better first through hike. I think I've talked about that in the past. And now hiking both trails, I definitely still feel that way. And the reason I feel that way is because the AT, it's a physically harder trail. It is much harder than the PCT. Like, no question about it. It just is. So one, I think that the trail makes you a tough hiker right off the bat. You have to deal with a lot of bad weather on the AT. So I think it makes you mentally a tough hiker. But the positive thing about through hiking the Appalachian Trail first is the fact that there's a massive trail community out there. And there's a lot of room for error. So if you get uncomfortable or if you have a bad day, if you're cold, if you're wet, if you run out of food, it's easier for you to get off of the trail and find support. There's more trail angels. There's more of a community out there. So if you go out by yourself and you end up not really liking being by yourself on the trail, it's easy to make friends out there. Where the PCT was totally different. People that are through hiking the PCT are more about their hike. Even though you do hike with some people, I hiked with some people on the PCT, everybody is really more set on their hike. Where on the AT, you tend to kind of get into these tribes of people, these tramways, where everybody's kind of hiking as a community. So I think that the AT is a better first through hike because there's more room for error and it's a better place to learn how to be a long distance hiker. But that being said, the PCT would be a phenomenal first through hike. And I personally know a lot of through hikers that the PCT was their first through hike. So I can tell you though, out of anyone that I've ever known that's ever through hiked all three of them has always said they wished that they would have through hiked the PCT last. And that's because the PCT, if you talk to anybody that's hiked all three, and even me hiking both, the PCT is a dream trail. It's just such good terrain. It's such beautiful environment. The weather's always perfect. It is a dream through hike. So, saving the best for last. If you hike the AT and then hike the CDT, and you want to go out with a bang and really enjoy a hike, the PCT is amazing. But all that being said, whichever one that you pick, it's going to be great. And yeah, I will have a video coming out this week.
So
actually,
you still have to watch it.
Yeah, you still got to watch the video. I'll kind of explain the differences of, in my opinion, of what I think between both of them as a through hike and kind of their advantages to doing one over the other or the disadvantages of doing one over the other. So,
next comment. I think this is a comment. Thanks for the specialized tire device. I'll look into it. I grew up in Albuquerque. Awesome. Learned about goat heads at an early age. One of my biggest fears on my trip. Yeah,
Nice.
we didn't know about that when we were in
we're from
Albuquerque.
Indiana originally, so we went out there and like I went.
Man, you step on those things. That's the worst
Oh,
too.
they hurt.
Ooh.
If none of you out there know what we're talking about
You're
with
gonna have
goat
to
heads,
Google goat heads.
just Google goat head.
They're terrifying when you get them in your foot or your tire.
Awful. They're everywhere in the Southwest. So
next comment is, I'm glad your addictions are healthy things, Darwin.
yeah.
Me too.
My addictions are pretty healthy. Kinda. Sometimes they're healthy. They're maybe not mentally healthy all the time.
Let's see. Darlene says, thank you for all you guys do. Your videos with all the info are both awesome. I am not a hiker, but I totally love everything on your channel. It makes me want to go and do it at age 60. You totally can, Darlene. We hiked over 1,500 miles with a guy that was 61, and he put us to shame.
Yep.
Age is but a number.
Totally. All right. Next is, I know you have summited several summits on your PCT hike. Do you have any interest in mountain climbing generally? Will we ever see Darwin on top of Everest or perhaps Mount Hood or Denali? Maybe. I've kind of dabbled with the idea in the past of doing some light mountaineering. If you guys didn't get it from my videos when I was in the Sierra on the PCT, I really hate snow. I hate snow. I hate it. I'll hike in it. I accept it for what it is, but I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Even with if I had the best gear in the world and snowshoes and climbing gear and a helicopter, I hate snow. So the idea of me going off and climbing Mount Everest, going to play with snow, playing snow that high up where I can't breathe, when I don't have to, probably not.
Never say never.
Yeah, I might climb Mount Hood. I'd maybe be interested in climbing Mount Hood because that's not hardcore. Maybe.
You did that trip with Zach.
Yeah, I tried to do.
You didn't like it.
Right, I tried to do a winter ascent of Wheeler Peak, which is the highest mountain in New Mexico. It's up in the Taos Valley. I actually did a video about that. It's an old video. It's on my channel. Not a lot of people watched it. It was a real small, kind of crappy video. But I attempted to do a winter ascent of Wheeler Peak, and it didn't go good. There was too much snow. It got too cold. Got too late. So yeah, it's just not fun for me. So probably not. But then again, I say that about everything that I end up doing. So I don't know. Stay tuned. I might make a stupid decision and decide to go play on Denali or something.
All right, next question.
What
a great story about your friend. I can see how much it meant to you, even as you talked about it. Yeah, she's a really good. I've known Karen for several years. Actually, I used to work for her a while back, a long while back. So yeah, she's always been around, and she's also a psychotherapist, so she always knows the right things to say at the right time.
If you hate snow, then Everest would probably not be your thing. But nothing you ever do would surprise me. Yeah, it just doesn't sound
I'm married to him, and I'm just like, okay, you're gonna go do this hike. Okay, you're gonna do this. What are we doing now? Okay.
And then you could do Whitney via Mountaineers route or Shasta in the winter and call it a day. Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't even do that. It just doesn't sound fun. I just don't want to play in the snow. All right, so we are at an hour. Let's go ahead and we'll go a little bit over this time around. Let's go ahead and take 3 more questions. So if you guys have any questions, drop them over here in the chat box, and then right before we go, I just want to kind of fill you guys in on a little bit of information on some website stuff and on some documentary stuff. So 3 more questions. Go ahead and rapid fire. Go.
It looks like we got a comment. I'm so excited about the AT trail community and people to meet. If I ever do the Triple Crown, I had decided I wanted to save the PCT for last. Thanks for the assurance about that.
Yeah,
For
totally
sure.
safe for the PCT for last. I think it would be a good idea. Absolutely. No questions?
Do you want to go ahead and start talking about that stuff?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and kind of share with you guys a little bit of updated information about some Arizona Trail documentary stuff and a couple things with the website. So, number one, I do want to say we are starting now to dive into the website. If you guys haven't been privy to it and you haven't really followed along, Snuggles and I are currently building a website. And it's not going to be like the website that I have now. It's not going to be about me. It's not going to be my gear list or my gear reviews. It's going to be like an online magazine. It's going to be sort of an online hiking community website where not only am I going to produce content, but we want to publish other people's content that I find insanely inspiring, and
useful.
Yeah, and the things that I like. I've met so many talented creators out on the trail during hikes, whether they're photographers or cinematographers or writers, and they're people that aren't insane like me and haven't like given all my time to creating all this social media. So, they're probably not going to start a YouTube channel. They're probably not going to, start a big website. So I really wanted to create a space where I can take people that really kind of inspire me and publish their stuff to inspire others.
To get it out there.
Yeah, to get it out there.
Community platform.
Basically, I want to use my audience, and I want to use you guys as a platform to help promote their stuff, so you can follow their adventures. You can,
and beyond just through hiking or hiking, there's way more than that. We've met so many interesting people who they adventure in completely different ways than what we do, and they have amazing stories.
Yeah, like climbers and people that are bike tourists and people that are traveling overseas and people that are living, a van life and traveling around in national parks, and people that really inspire me. And, I love hiking and backpacking, and that's my thing. But there's so many other things that I would love to do that inspire me. So we are building a website to just be general and have a bunch of general information to kind of inspire everyone to get out into the outdoors, and kind of live their life to the fullest, no matter what it is, no matter if it's hiking or if it's car camping or if it's paragliding or whatever it is. So we want to be able to put out more information and inspire everybody in different ways. So that's what we're currently working on. You guys might have seen me kicking around a couple of logo ideas. If you had the availability to see that, in the next couple days, I'm going to be publishing on Patreon the final logo for the website. I'll go ahead and let you guys in on it. The website is called Outdoor Evolution. The website will be called theoutdoorevolution.com, and we have our logo finished, and currently we are building the website, and I'm working with a bunch of creators right now to publish articles and media that they're currently putting together. So when the website goes live on January 1st, there'll be all different types of media for basically everybody to consume. A little bit of something for everybody. So we're pretty excited about it. So stay tuned. I'm going to be throwing so many ideas out at you guys because I love your feedback. It's why
we want you guys to be a part of it too.
Absolutely.
Because we have this idea for this community, but really our idea, it's morphing and it's still growing, and it's very organic right now.
Yes.
So we would love to shoot ideas to you guys.
So having feedback from you guys is really important to me, which is why I've been trying to engage a lot more with you guys lately, ask you more questions, just so I can get you guys kind of hooked into that, so I can throw out more questions for you and get more feedback from you, because I think it's important that we all kind of work together.
as a community.
Yeah, as a community. It's just all about trail community for me. It's what I love out there, so I'd love to have it here as well. And then going forward, we're going to be shooting the Arizona Trail documentary. And right now, we're basically putting everything together for pre-production and trying to bring in some sponsors to sponsor the documentary. We did set a green light budget, basically an amount of money that we would need to start production, so that would cover travel expenses, that would cover camera equipment, permits, because whenever you're doing a professional documentary, you have to have filming permits for national parks and national forest, and even the state of Arizona makes you have a filming permit. So we had a green light budget, and recently the budget was met. So the project has been greenlit. Now we still don't have all that we need to fully do the documentary and to fully do the thru hike, but a nice big chunk of it has been taken care of by a couple of companies and people that have stepped up to help fund the project and to make it a reality. So that's about all I can say. There's things that I can't say because of legal aspects.
Nothing really set in stone.
Yeah, and there's
anyways,
nothing
at this
100% set in stone. We're really close to having it set in stone.
And as much information as that at that point, that really it's not even me, but Darwin can tell you.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys as much
happened.
information about it as I possibly can as it rolls in. But do know that it is currently greenlit. The documentary is 100% a go. We're going out to film it no matter what. And yeah, you guys are supporting that here on Patreon and being a big part of that and really helping that come into existence. And
just helping you, supporting you as a hiker.
And just supporting me to get out there and do it. So really excited about that. Again, I'll be sharing a ton more information as it rolls in. And letting you guys know a lot more as soon as I can. But right now, I kind of got to keep it zipped. I can't let out too information before the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So
there's some things that I'm not even privy to, I think.
But that's good. All right, so that was all that I wanted to share with you guys. It looks like we got two questions that popped in. No, two questions that popped in real quick that we'll go ahead and answer up before we call it. The first question is, how many Lone Peaks did I burn through on the PCT? So I ended up going through 5 pairs of Lone Peaks. Now, to be fair, 2 of those pairs still had a lot more miles on them. Whenever I got the injury in Wrightwood, California, I only had 300 miles on a pair, and I was worried that it was my shoes, so I ended up switching them out early at 300 miles, so those shoes definitely still had a few hundred more miles left on them. I switched out to a pair of shoes, a new pair of Lone Peaks, and then I only hiked in those for 200 miles, and it's because my feet had grown. So 2 of the pairs that I burned through weren't really burnt through at all. I actually still have a pair in the van right now that only have 200 miles on them. So technically, I used 3 pairs of Lone Peaks all the way through until they weren't good anymore. And then at the end of the trail, the last 700 miles in Bend, Oregon, I switched to the Olympus. I ended up switching over to the Ultra Olympus. I couldn't find Lone Peaks in my size, and I wanted just a little bit more cush. So I switched to those. I put 500 miles on a pair, burned them, and then I picked up a pair for the last 200 miles, and that's still the pair that I'm hiking in right now. So altogether, that was, what was it again?
A lot of shoes. I don't know.
3 pairs of Lone Peaks that were completely done, 2 pairs that still had a ton more miles on them, and 2 pairs of Ultra Olympus, and one still has a bunch of miles on it. So 4 burnt shoes total, 1 that I'm still hiking in.
That's confusing.
Really confusing. Hopefully you guys followed along on that. And then the last question of tonight is, Do you stuff your Z-Packs tent or roll it up to pack it every day? So I actually roll my Z-Packs duplex. I used to stuff old tents. For some reason, the duplex is just easier to roll. So I've always been a roller on that. Not for any reason, just how I've done it. So you can still stuff that tent. I know a lot of people that stuff it. I just roll it. Oh, Leonidas randomly popped in at the last minute. What's up, Leo? So one more question, and that's it. I'm not answering any more questions. Am I going to try the new Lone Peak 4.0, or are the Olympus the new go-to? The Olympus are my new go-to, 100%. I didn't think that I wanted that extra cushion for a long time, but I'm telling you what, man, after hiking those last 700 miles with that little bit of extra cush, it was really, really awesome.
The cush is where it's at.
The cush is where it's at. Especially whenever you're hiking in desert environments, harder environments, so like out on the Arizona Trail, it's just real hard-packed stuff. It definitely tears your feet up a little bit more than like down south where the ground tends to be a little bit more dirt, muddy, spongy. The Southwest can definitely tear your feet up a little bit more. So I think from here on out, I am an Olympus guy, and I might give the Lone Peaks 4.0 a try though. Not a big fan of how they look right now, though. I checked them out, and they're not really speaking to me. So, all right, guys, that is it. Thank you all for joining us on this month's live Q&A. Sorry it was a little bit late, but we were out on that bike tour. Got a ton of new videos coming up for you guys, and a bunch of stuff to let you guys in on here on Patreon. Thanks so much for all the support. And for any of you that are level 3 and up patrons, within the next couple of days, I will be announcing the gear giveaway that I do every month. So keep an eye out for that on Patreon. To everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have an awesome rest of your week. Have an amazing Halloween, spooky Halloween, and get out on the trail and go hiking or go riding a bike or go do something outside and inspire other people. See you guys.